And welcome back. Let's see. We're going to go to Gerry Byrne now, who's the Liberal MP for Humber St. Barbe Vert on line 1. Good evening.
Good night, Pete Susie.
How's it going?
I'm okay. Listen, I've been following the Gerry Rogers, Speaker Wiseman fiasco.
It's quite a circus.
It's absolutely outrageous, and I'll say this very point-blank, very bluntly, right up front. The House of Assembly should withdraw its support and confidence in Speaker Wiseman to be removed from office. There's absolutely no question in my mind whatsoever, Pete.
Well, that's not going to happen, of course, because he comes from the government side. I know he's supposed to be impartial and all that, but it baffles me how he could come back with this demand that Gerry Rogers apologize. Well,
if there is any self-respect in any member of the Provincial House of Assembly, they should act accordingly and protect the privileges and rights as all members should protect as a member of the House of Assembly, and they should remove the confidence in him as Speaker. And I'll tell you why. I'm not going to dig into the issues itself about, this Facebook site or anything like that. I'll simply go on this from the point of view of parliamentary procedure and Westminsterian, the Westminsterian system of democracy that the House of Assembly is supposed to follow and the Speaker is supposed to follow. He had no right to find Gerry Rogers in contempt. He does not have that power. It does not exist in a Speaker of the House of Assembly. He is sworn to protect. He can investigate and determine whether or not there is a prima facie case of contempt, whether or not on its face there is a reasonable body of evidence that there could be a contempt that is committed. If the Speaker finds that there is a prima facie case of contempt, he cannot rule that there is contempt. He can only simply refer it to the House of Assembly, to the members, to decide for themselves either through the Standing Committee on Procedure and House Affairs, if one exists, or the Committee of the Whole.
And that's not what happened here in this case? That's not what happened in this case? He didn't bring it back?
No, he ruled contempt without asking the House to pronounce itself on it. He does not have that power. That is so basic and so simple that for a Speaker of the House of Assembly to, fudge that up, that's why he should be removed from office. Don't even forget about the stuff, the actual basis of the charge. I'm not even going to get into that. That's for basically what we do know is that he ruled that there is no evidence that there was contempt by Gerry Rogers. There is no evidence that she participated in a breach of privilege of another member. There is no evidence that she did anything wrong. But he ruled that she was in contempt and required her to apologize. He doesn't have that power.
Well, you would know more than I.
The matter back to the House of Assembly.
Yeah, I clearly have no idea of how it's supposed to work. You're certainly convincing me. But in any event, if this is the case and he did something he's not empowered to do, then presumably this will be reversed as soon as possible.
Well, all he can do is simply refer the matter. He can say that that he can advance this issue. He can say this is serious enough. Mm-hmm. I've reviewed the matter. There is a body of evidence mm-hmm. that suggests that Gerry Rogers is guilty. I cannot say it is according to the standing orders, according to the system of Westminsterian democracy, of constitutional monarchy democracy. All he can say is, I now will ask the House of Assembly to decide this matter, to direct me as Speaker.
But when
presents that evidence,
when Jerome Kennedy made the
then there is a motion that has to be actually debated in the House of Assembly at the Procedure and House Affairs Committee or Committee of the Whole, and the motion would then find Gerry Rogers in contempt. But the motion actually has to be voted upon by all members. To get something as simple and as basic as that, for him to actually evict Gerry Rogers from the House of Assembly without even actually authority of the House of Assembly to do so, he should be removed and his office should be changed.
Wow. I just got a message from someone that says the story about Gerry just made the Montreal Gazette and maybe the Washington Post. So I guess we're going to find out. We're going to get to the bottom of it.
Let me tell you something, Pete. This is so basic to democracy in a Commonwealth country and as Canada and Newfoundland and Labrador as members of the Commonwealth Association of Speakers. You know, Speaker Wiseman goes to these conferences of Commonwealth speakers on a regular basis so that they can understand and learn best practices of the very rules which he's entrusted to enforce. To make such a basic, this will be news in every Commonwealth country in the world.
All right. Well, we're going to have to wait and find out.
What happened today is an outrage.
All right, Gerry, listen, thanks very much for this. It's going to be interesting to follow. I think they've made a major blunder, if not an actual mistake in terms of how the procedure goes here, but it's going to be something we'll be talking about for a couple of days for sure.
You know what it's like? It's like a judge saying, I can't find any evidence against you to suggest you're guilty, but I'm going to find you guilty anyway, and I'm going to sentence you to 3 years in jail. Yeah. That's what Wiseman did this afternoon. Yeah. Not only can he do it ethically, but he has, from a procedural point of view, he has just shown a level of incompetence, which, quite frankly, the locks on his office should be changed by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Tom Osborne just tweeted that he has been informed that he was added to the group, and he's desperately trying to figure out how to remove himself from the group. So there you go. I'd be very surprised if some of the Tory MHAs haven't been added to that group.
Imagine if there was a group that called for some harm or wrongdoing done to members of the other party. To members of the Liberal Party or members of the NDP Party. Imagine if I actually signed somebody up to a group that called for harm to somebody else. I left it alone for a week, and then all of a sudden I said, I've just discovered that Speaker Wiseman is a member of this Facebook group.
There you go.
Calling for harm to people.
Absolutely.
I insisted, I'll be leader of the Newfoundland Party one of these days and whatever, won't I? Because I get rid of everybody in the process. You know what? It's wrong. It's unethical. And quite frankly, for Speaker Wiseman to rule in this fashion and for the House of Assembly not to collectively protect the rights and privileges of a colleague by actually, I won't even use harsh terms to describe this. I won't over-exaggerate, but quite frankly, it shows a real lack of judgment and shows that we've got some work to do to actually be a first world democracy.
Sure. Again.
Ciao.
Appreciate it.